Prominent traditional liberal Bill Maher brings on Candace Owens for some interesting discussion. We're going to react to some clips here today on Speechless. Cut for time. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to Speechless Cut for Time. I'm your host, Kev Phares, 22-year-old conservative college student out of Central Illinois, host of Speechless on Cities 92.9, the news and talk of Bloomington Normal. But I can't necessarily fit everything I want to talk about in my 2-hour Sunday show, which you can also tune in for the live stream here on my channel for that too. But I can't necessarily fit everything in, so I bring you guys these Cut for Time videos to have some interesting conversation and look at some fascinating things going on in our dying but awesome world. And so if you don't want to miss a minute of it, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, comment what you think, and share it with your friends. Guys, definitely please subscribe. I'm almost to that 1,000 mark, and I'd love to be able to pass it. If by the time you're watching this, I've already passed it, well, then please still subscribe. We can get more people to hear some of these messages and to have a good time with us. Everybody, let's get right on into it. Bill Maher has his popular show on HBO, but he also has a podcast, and he had Candace Owens on recently, who is very pregnant in the video, which I just think is fun. She even talks about at the beginning of the interview that she's been pregnant basically for 3 years straight. Just like one Irish twins is basically what she's having, consistently Irish triplets almost. And so they talk about just a lot of fun things under the sun. And I think this is amazing because in our, like I said, in our slowly dying world, conversation seems lost among people that disagree. And Candace Owens being fairly right-leaning, more than just leaning, maybe right-falling person. Who I love her. I think I've done other reaction videos to her stuff before, and they just have great conversation, which I think is worth sharing. And so I'm going to play some clips. We're going to talk about them. And then also I will link the entire unedited, unabridged interview that they did together, not necessarily a reaction video, but the full interview in the comments of this if you want to watch the full thing without any reactions. But let's take a look and a listen. This first one's about the death of comedy. Let's see what they both had to say.
Don't you miss being able to make fun of each other in like a feel-good way? Go watch the old stand-up comedians. They would walk in, they'd be on stage, and they would just literally, you could not survive. You were Chinese, you're getting a joke. You're black, you're getting a joke about and everyone is being offended and everyone's laughing. And when they walk out, they're closer. Closer, because you need to have it taken out.
You do. You're not now when you're walking on eggshells.
Yeah.
See, I can't make a joke because if it's taken the wrong way,
gotta issue an apology. If it's taken, it's
and
like,
that way we don't get close.
Yeah, we never get closer. We never get closer. And I still keep that in my friendships. I make fun of my friends for, I'm like, oh, well, it's because you're black, or that because you're Spanish, oh, you're Jewish. And that is why we are so close, because we are able to, that is actually
also,
how people
and it's not to say
together.
that racism still doesn't
never going to go away. There's always going to be stupid people.
Like there will all be criminals.
Yes, exactly. The people are dumb. We get that.
Right.
Don't you miss being able?
Exactly. And I love that. And I love that they both agree on that. And I think that's a good place for them to have a conversation, because it's something, again, Bill Maher is more of a traditional liberal, not like the far lefties and everything. And he also is a comedian. And so the idea of free speech is so fundamentally important, and not only important to like the sustaining of America, but also just like the social fabric of society. And the idea of like what Candace said, like being able to make fun of somebody, yeah, on maybe some shallow levels, like race, ethnicity, religion, or anything like that. But because you're in the right context with friends of some kind, what's the problem in that? And yet you'll have people that might overhear it or somehow, or maybe something slips out, and they'll label you an ardent racist for it. And again, like Bill Maher clarified, and even Candace agreed, racism still exists. There's always going to be stupid people out there, like Candace said, quoting, but that doesn't necessarily make everybody who maybe makes an off-color joke and you overhear it or something like that, doesn't make everybody a racist. We live in a world in which people are way too sensitive nowadays. And the fact of the matter is that humor is not universal. A sense of humor is not universal. Being able to take a joke is not universal. And we have a growing number of people in society that have been coddled like babies their entire lives, and they're my age, if not even older, that don't understand how to even laugh anymore. And a life without laughter is a life not worth living, is my personal belief. But let's take a look at this next one. This is a little bit more of a serious topic, not just humor. This is Candace and Bill Maher talking about big pharma, and specifically as it relates to children. I haven't watched this full one. I haven't watched all of these in full. I just know their premise. Let's take a look and a listen at this one.
I produce an entire separate series talking about vaccines and sort of the increase. And
well, I don't think
when I was a kid,
I don't think vaccines are a hoax or anything, right? I just
not a hoax.
Okay,
but how do your kids need from 1980 to
no, they don't
6 to 75?
Right.
You know,
I mean, my view, just to be clear, vaccines are a tool in the medical kit, just like antibiotics.
Right.
And just like antibiotics, I wouldn't want to be told everyone's taking them, so you have to
Right.
too.
Yeah,
Like,
one size fits all.
If I decide I need one for a certain pathogen and I'm at a place in my life where I think that playing the odds, which is what medicine always is, that would be the smart thing. Okay. But forcing it and in children who never needed it for this, who
Yeah.
the least likely.
And they're so sick. The kids have never been sicker. And that's,
right. Never
I start
been
my,
sicker.
my series by asking, these kids have never been more vaxxed. We're the most vaxxed country in the entire world. You know, we have these high infant mortality rates when weighed against third world countries. And you're being told that this is because we're super healthy. You got kids 75 vaccines. When I was a kid, it was 12, you know, and there's been an explosion. People don't even know anything about the diseases. It's just these constant fear campaigns. And then on top of that, in states like LA, you can't opt out, you know? So these are things that parents have to think about now, where you're literally raising your kids. Could you go to prison for saying that I don't want my child referred to as a different gender behind my back? Yes. Depending on where you live, they're trying to criminalize you being a parent. And then you add that to the, you know, medical complex. And maybe you say, you know, I'm not afraid if my kid gets chickenpox. I got chickenpox, get chickenpox parties. You can't do that in LA. You can't do it in LA. And if you're a doctor and you say, oh, this parent didn't want their child to get the chickenpox vaccine, you'll get your license taken away in a place like LA. I don't think parents realize why that's so scary. Not necessarily, we can argue all day. You can call me anti-vax, I can call you pro-vax. But as parents, we should be able to make decisions for our children. I don't fear the chickenpox.
That's all I was. I mean, yes, I would really not go over well in today's world if I was a parent. I would just be in fights and it would just be ugly.
It would just be ugly. So that was another very fascinating time to see a more traditional liberal and a conservative agree on something. And that's really nice to hear. And I think the great thing about it is, so it started off, it was not necessarily nearly as much about Big Pharma, and Big Pharma is a part of it, but it was much more about parental rights. What if the government is able to tell you that you have to call your kid by their preferred pronouns? If the government is able to tell you, and that's even more extreme, the government is able to tell you your kid has to get these vaccines, period, or else we will take them away from you. We will consider it child neglect or anything like that. Then what else are they willing to do? And what else are they able to do? To say, if you do not do this, then you are a neglectful parent. Look, and there needs to be a bare line minimum or baseline minimum. I agree in the fact of, yes, you probably shouldn't like full-heartedly abuse your kids. Now, spanking and maybe stuff like that, I understand, but you shouldn't you shouldn't be the stereotypical trope of the drunk father and the wife beater that just hits your kids. Yeah, maybe okay, not that, but there needs to be a basic level of rights. But that's even saying that's something you can't do to kids. When it comes to vaccines, that's saying you have to do this, and if you do not, then we'll take your kids away from you. It's a parental rights issue. And thank God that even Bill Maher, there are some traditional liberals out there that can still see that as a significant issue and thing to watch out for. And even himself will say that if he was a parent today, he would not go over well. Okay, let's take a look at this next one. No preface. Let's just go with it.
Probably going to be convicted for what he should be convicted for. And I'm sure we agree on this, Candace.
Definitely sure we agree on this.
About, trying to overthrow the government of the United States.
It's Trump.
You're just not you're not a weak enough person to really I don't buy this. I think you dance this way because you think you have to placate.
Okay, first of all,
no chance. Just to educate that we almost lost America on January 6th. I just don't buy that you're that soft.
Yeah, I do. And just to educate you a little on this, I was saying this for 5 years when everyone was laughing at me for saying this, that Trump would never concede the election and he would never go away. I was all alone on a raft.
But I mean, you saw BLM riots, right?
Yeah.
The summer leading up to this, right? Where I lived in DC at this time where you couldn't go outside, cars were flipped, things were burned, people were boarding up their windows. But you thought the end of democracy, you can say this meaningful face, happened when people above the age of 65 stormed the Capitol. You thought that was the worst thing you've ever seen in American politics.
Yeah, seriously. And that's a great rebuttal to anybody who is like, oh my God, we almost lost America. We almost lost America. And I love how she says, you can't be that simple-minded. You can't actually believe that was the moment that you thought we almost lost America. Do you know what America has been through? Period. I mean, she brings up BLM because that's a relevant thing that people will remember and the amount of destruction through BLM riots. There was literal autonomous zones set up in different cities across America. There was Chaz and Chop up in the on the Upper West Coast. Like there were autonomous zones. People that were literally declaring themselves independent from any government, their city government, state, anything. So, and you think that January 6th was the day? No. You know what we've gone through? We literally have gone through an entire civil war. And you think January 6th is when we're going to lose this democracy? And it's not even democracy. It's a constitutional republic. You can shred me in the comments for saying that. But you know what I mean? You think that's when we almost lost America? Like, come on. Come on. Great disagreement and great explanation by Candace. That's an absolutely phenomenal one. Now we have this one. This is global warming, that topic, you know, and definitely the more traditional liberal, anybody who was big Al Gore back in 2000, in the 2000 election would definitely probably be more on the side of global warming is an existential crisis and everything. Let's see if there's any common ground to be found. Take a look and a listen here.
Yeah.
But don't you not believe like in the moon landing? So I'm supposed to believe you about climate?
I think it's so funny how people take, well, first off, I know what I'm talking about with the climate stuff. So I'm just going to go ahead and promote.
Well, you're not the only one.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think you should probably realize like that there is, in the same way that there are narratives, I think you're now more awake to. The climate hoax is one that funds trillions of dollars. And we are not running out of space. You could fit the entire world if you stacked it like New York City in Dallas. So
I just said it's not about.
But the point is that hurricanes are down. The whole idea that every time it rains, it's because something bad is happening is like it's okay.
What I will agree with you on is this.
Here's some common ground.
The environmentalists do often lie because they have this idea, this issue is so important, and by the way, it is so important, that it's okay if we shade the truth to get people on our side, and I don't agree with that. I'm always—
They've lied every time.
Well, not every time.
What was your climate disaster growing up? Mine was global warming. They don't even say it anymore.
They don't say global warming anymore?
No, they don't. No, they say climate change. They went from global
Maybe
cooling.
Not in your bubble, but in the world they do.
No, they don't. They went from global cooling to global warming.
They never were in global. No one was ever talking about. It was one. That's such a stupid talking point that you keep repeating. It's a zombie lie. It was one article in one magazine in one day, 1 week in Newsweek or something. Nobody was talking about global cooling. Yes, we understand that the planet is always changing. That's a different story.
No, there was a whole climate alarmism via the IPC for global cooling.
No, there wasn't.
No, there wasn't.
There was.
There was. I love how it's like, this is something that actually happened. He's like, no, there wasn't. No, there wasn't. He goes on this whole tirade. No, there wasn't. At least they found a little bit of common ground. And yes, they will lie. But Candace also brought up a great point at the beginning. Do you know how much, and it was very brief, but it was, do you know how much money is in the climate alarmism business? Well, that's a good point. And it's true. And I agree. But that also speaks to pretty much every other political issue out there too. A significant amount of them. Let's take another one that people get very emotional about: abortion. And I always tell people this, and I'm pro-life myself and I advocate for pro-life policy, but it's never going to be a done deal. You want to know why? Because the amount of lobbyists and organizations, interest groups that are on both sides of this issue, your right to life people, as well as your like Planned Parenthoods on both sides, the amount of money that gets funneled into politicians' pockets on both sides, it will never be a done deal. We're going to continue, just like with the climate change thing. It's never going to be a done deal. There's so much money that circulates around it. Gun control, another one, both sides of it, so much money. That's the thing about a lot of these issues. And I don't want to sound hopeless or pessimistic, because I do believe that some strides could be made in certain policy areas, but you're never going to be able to get everything you want, period. That doesn't mean compromise on anything, but you're never going to be able to get everything you want, because the amount of money that gets circulated in political issues will never allow them to be done deals. And I know that was a little tirade off of what they were talking about, but just something that I highly thought about. I think this last clip that I have, your last clip, everybody, is probably my favorite one, because it and I don't remember exactly what Bill Maher says in it, but Candace talks about if she were a leftist. If she were a leftist. And I think this is a very important thing to recognize. Let's take a look and listen.
Just thought to myself, if I was going to fake it, the easier thing would have been to be faking a BLM crazy liberal. I would have crushed it. I would have had, do you know how much money I would have made if I leaned into a liberal leftist. They would have had me on every media. I would have been on the cover. I would have been Times most influential person.
You could be hosting the nightly news.
So how much money would I be making right now if I had just gone left? That's why I was like challenging them. Like, if I really was about the money, this is the route I would have gone.
It is not easy being a Black conservative.
It's horrible.
It's horrible.
It's horrible because they're constantly telling you that it can't be real. Okay, so even my marriage is a sham. I even married someone who's conservative.
So, like, when they do polling, the majority of Black people are not liberal.
No.
They're moderate and more conservative than whites.
On certain issues, especially like LGBTQ stuff.
Yes.
Black people are far right.
Far right. Yes.
Have been for a very long time.
Yes.
Realistic
so, like,
conversation.
The trans stuff is not selling in the Black community and things of that nature. Black men are definitely leaning much more conservative these days, which makes sense because of the way they were going back to me saying, like, I was raised conservatively, actually. And then kind of something happens in public school where you kind of learn that you kind of have to be a liberal. And then I was liberal. I would describe myself as liberal. I wasn't voting Democrat or anything, but I was very liberal in college. Very, like, everything, feminism. We need feminism.
What years are we talking about?
I graduated high school in 2007. So 2007 to 2011.
So the beginning of Obama, you were a liberal.
I cried when Obama won.
Well, so should a conservative. So should a conservative.
Who didn't? Yeah, exactly. So it's interesting. And so then people use that against me. And we're like, well, that shows that you're doing, and when they say they're doing this for the money, I'm like, you're an effing idiot. If I was doing this for the money, I would be the best BLM.
Yeah. And so that's, she does get accused. I've seen it all the time. She gets accused. And I've seen other Black conservatives that I know, Modern Renaissance Man, Ty Smith, if not just being called like a race traitor or some other racist connotation, saying that they can't think for themselves and they have to be a certain way because of their race and they have to think a certain way because of their race. Then you're faking it for the money or the fame or anything like that. That's what they get, which in and of itself is just an absolutely racist accusation. But she makes a great point. If I was faking it, it'd be a lot easier to fake it as a liberal. My life would be a lot easier. I probably wouldn't get nearly as much hate. I'd probably be a lot more, well, on the flip side, I mean, the contrapositive of that is I'd be a lot more popular. I'd probably make even more money. Did you see how much BLM rakes in? So, yeah, if she's going to fake it, don't you think she'd probably be your far left, BLM, Antifa, whatever, communist? I don't know. But let me know what you guys think. I always like doing these reaction videos. Like I said, I'll leave the full interview link in the comments of this video so you can watch it for yourself if you'd like to. I just always like seeing what Candace has to say. And I think Bill Maher, I also think, here's another thing I think of. I've seen a lot of Bill Maher interviews. I really don't think he is that smart. He is a traditional liberal and he does advocate for some things that I agree with. And so I'll give him credit when credit's due, but I also don't think he's that smart. A lot of times when somebody comes in that's a lot smarter than him, he'll just kind of get pushed in whatever way they are and be like, okay, well, I guess I could see that. I guess I could agree, all that kind of stuff. And I think it's really just because he doesn't actually have that knowledge. Dancing with Bill Maher would be basically dancing. He would let you lead. That's what it seems like, to put it in a bit of an analogy. He would let you lead in any dance that you did. But I hope you guys like this. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, comment what you think, and share this with your friends. God bless you. God bless America. And until next time, this has been Speechless. Go for time.